Hey there.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome.
So I'm feeling a little shitty right now.
Tell us about that.
Because we weren't supposed to be recording today. And yet we are, because I messed up a schedule. So I think I should let that go and just breathe it out. Everyone seems to be okay with it. I apologize profusely. And,
to the production team.
So I guess I should apologize to you as well for being here at a time where you weren't supposed to listen.
Well, if you have something today that you need to let go of, we're going to let go of that together.
Yes. So take a deep breath. But now, nice. Very nice.
Beautiful. Okay.
Welcome back. My name is Will.
And my name's Kathryn.
And this is Behind the Pixel. We are Open Pixel Studios, the co-founders, and this is an Open Pixel podcast. This is a podcast where we try to bridge the knowledge gap between those who buy creative content and those who make it.
Absolutely.
And, we can get behind pixels, but what else can you get behind?
That's a fair question. I can get behind a lot of things. I can totally get behind gluten-free bagels all
That's
day.
Fair.
That's
bagels or bagels?
Bagels.
Bagels?
Where did they say bagels? Somebody says it.
I think you just said it, but I'm not sure.
I might have. I do know that I do call the Cincinnati bagels instead of the Bengals.
The bagels?
Yeah.
The Cincinnati bagels?
Their motto is like, who they think gonna beat them Bengals. And every time I say it fast, I screw it up and I say bagels.
Right.
So, sorry.
That's fair.
Sorry to all the fans. But I can also get behind maybe dresses with pockets in them.
Nice.
That's,
always a good thing.
Always
a good thing.
Necessary thing. And, cats.
I can get behind cats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're cool cats. We get behind cats. All right. Well, before you're no longer behind us, why don't we get into today's topic?
Yes. So today's topic is our first production episode. Production episodes are slightly different. They're kind of like before you buy episodes, but we go a little bit deeper into the animation workflow. We'll try to explain a couple of, we're going to break it down into stages, and this is our first production stage.
Yes.
And so you want to think about it like as if you were in production here.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're unfamiliar with an animation's production workflow, we have a whole episode about that.
That's true.
So,
that is true.
But we're going to take you at least today through the very first stage.
Yeah.
So we want to cover essentially the very first thing that you do when you're starting any animation production, which is the script.
The script?
Yes.
Oh. You mean like scripting, like code?
No.
Like coming up with a script?
No, I do not.
Or like in psychology when the social role or behavior that's appropriate to a particular situation that you learn.
What?
It teaches you how to behave. Not that kind of script.
Not familiar.
Okay.
I failed
what
psychology
about,
101.
Prescription drugs? Do you like a script?
Boy.
Like you get a little script?
You're going.
No.
Yeah.
A biblical scripture, maybe, perhaps?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, the script in animation terms is probably the easiest thing to wrap your head around if you're either a communications professional or a creative.
Right.
You read the words on the page and you can kind of imagine what it will be, what the words will be on the page.
Interesting. That's like you mean like one of those things. They come in like they're square rectangles, and you open them.
Are you talking about books?
That's it. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yes.
Those
wow. You're right. A script is just like a book. Incredible. The technology keeps getting better.
So much better.
Yeah. So the most challenging part about the process is to actually adopt new structures to your writing to organize those thoughts into cohesive visuals that you can use across the board for your story. It can also be the most daunting as a creative because we need to be the ones who are translators from words to visuals that ultimately align with the goal of the piece. So no easy task there. But today we're going to be covering the AV script structure, formulating your script and how that structure fits in to the larger animation production workflow overall. So maybe we should start by chatting a bit about the problems in script writing that we see, perhaps more broadly, and then maybe even what people will gain from this episode.
Yeah, that's a good segue. So one common problem is the lack of understanding of what a script is, right, in the context of an animated project, and again, its importance in the overall animation production process. If you're not used to creating animated content, script writing might feel far away from, say, analyzing metrics to try to get to a particular company goal. Right.
Well, because sometimes like scripts and the words within there are a little more intangible to measure.
Exactly. Yeah. So script writing for business purposes is the same as sort of coming up with messaging for your audience. A lot of businesses call this copywriting, or what you have is copy. The problem is that script writing and animation requires a little extra work to write with visuals already sort of in mind for the story. So again, doing that translation between those two things. So this is why, in our opinion, videos created for sales, for educational purposes, for informational content, you want to use an AV script format. It's the best tool for writing and keeping that message and the visuals connected to each other. I think that's really the key.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about this, what this actually means, and the format of it a little bit later on. So just keep it in the back of your mind for now. Yeah.
A second problem is that many people may not be familiar with the AV script structure at all.
Right.
And so if you're a creative writer, you might be more familiar with something like a teleplay or a screenplay or a manuscript. Those are all sort of different types of versions of the same thing. Again, copywriting. You would write your words in that traditional format. And when you're formatting it for, say, TV, entertainment, film, movies, that kind of thing.
And maybe let's start by doing a little example with a little bit of a little bit of a table read.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
this
different.
This is going to be great.
Sure.
Yeah, we're switching it up a little bit.
All right.
I've got our script here on my screen.
I see you've pasted it.
I did.
Into our notes here.
Because I didn't want to get a PDF. It'd be too hard. So yes, I will assume the role of Mark in the scene.
Sure.
If you're okay with taking the role of Johnny.
I can be Johnny.
And I will read the description, and I'll let you know when we end scene.
Sure.
So here we go. Johnny and Mark enter a coffee shop and approach the counter. We see steamed milk being prepared by Susan, the barista. Johnny is reading some fine print on a folder and holding the folder directly in front of his face, covering it from view. Mark, how was work today?
Pretty good. We got a new client, and the bank will make a lot of money.
What client? Do I know him? What's his name?
I can't tell you. It's confidential.
Oh, come on, man. Why not? I thought we were best friends.
No, I cannot. Anyway, how's your sex life?
End scene.
That is a real script from a real movie.
One of our favorites.
Called The Room.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, fantastic.
We're talking about, right, so there's clearly different types of entertaining content.
Yeah, so often I think of like entertaining scripts as like teaching you and when you're like sort of reading between the lines. That's sort of what TV, film, entertainment does usually.
Right.
Good film TV.
Yeah, which is not what you're doing in the case of the script you just read.
Yeah, but whereas when you're talking about sales or educational or informative content, all of that information needs to be sort of provided clarity on the surface. So everyone's on the same page about, what the messaging is and gets it really, really quickly.
Yeah, because when you're selling a product, you really don't want to leave any room for interpretation about what the actual product is, because then no one's going to be able to actually explain it well to another person. So it's going to turn into like a game of telephone, and your product is going to be one thing in your mind and completely different in the mind of the audience. Yeah.
One last common problem that we see in our experience is the lack of clarity in the intended outcomes. So we realize that most marketing and communication professionals already have goals in mind. So we're kind of skipping that pre-step right now for this episode.
We will get there. Don't worry.
We will get there. We know developing a well-structured script and an engaging story can be a significant hurdle for some of you. So
for sure.
Let's start by discussing the importance of outlining the story. We'll give you some tips for writing better and more engaging scripts, and then we'll move on to structuring the animation.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, because we want to help you craft narratives that obviously will truly captivate your audiences.
Yeah. I would say from a story perspective specifically, right? Not from the like fancy, expensive visual nature of things, perhaps going through some form of water or ways through them by any means.
Ways of those
We reference this movie
liquids,
way too much. Yeah.
Ways of the Liquids. It's not a good movie. It's not a good movie.
We'll have a whole side tangent later.
I'm so disappointed. Anyway.
Yes.
All right, let's get into some tips for building good stories.
Yes, that's fair to do. So why don't we start at the beginning? Once upon a time.
In a galaxy far, far away.
No, we're going to get copyright strike or something for that. Who knows? Have they trademarked that?
Maybe.
I'm scared. Okay. Your first job in any script is to grab the audience's attention from the start. Yeah. And that should really be within the first 1 to 2 lines of your script.
Yeah, and that's something you want to do. So we're talking about scripts that are about a minute long.
That's true.
Just for business and informational sake.
We're not making any room level
5,
movies
10,
right now.
15 minute type scripts, yeah.
So an intriguing and engaging opening scene is one that really presents something that sparks some curiosity, or it's unexpected, or even it can be seen as mysterious sometimes. But your words could involve introducing something like a thought-provoking question or describing a situation that raises, again, curiosity in the audience. And maybe it's something that they didn't know as a position that they usually find themselves in often, or a situation that they've been unaware of.
Yeah. And a quick side note here, we want to set the tone with our language here. Right. Most established businesses and organizations have something called brand guidelines. Mm-hmm. Within those brand guidelines, they're describing something called a brand voice. Now, a brand voice is a guide. It's your point of view. Mm-hmm. It's both what you say and how you say it. It has a feeling, it has an attitude, it has a sound or a cadence, and it's how you present yourself in a sort of verbal manner, right? So it's not just the words, but it's also how you deliver those words. So here's a brand voice example from one of our real clients. Mm-hmm. We're not going to mention them, but the company describes their voice as this: one of confidence. It is innovative yet practical, descriptive yet accurate. It doesn't use jargon or slang. It makes the complex simple. It delivers honesty. And above all, it believes in possibility.
Pretty clear.
Yeah, pretty clear.
Nice. But yeah, so now that you've got that sort of tone laid out, you've got your engaging statement right at the beginning, the next couple of lines, maybe lines 3 to 4, are kind of where you want to start to build tension, which sounds scary, but go with us. So in order to build tension, your audience needs to know and probably see their desired destination towards the end, right? Ideally, this is where you want to show an imagined solution to a problem, but putting it out of reach in some way. You're essentially creating an obstacle. Obstacles are used in every form of storytelling.
Yeah.
And we want our audience to understand the obstacles in their way. And ideally, they should align with the obstacles in your audience's real lives. That's what makes them relatable to the audience. So ultimately, that's what makes the problem solution script as we know it so prevalent in animation. This setup allows for the audience to connect with their own shared experiences. But that problem solution method, to be clear, is really only effective when you combine it with that right tone and voice, as we were talking about before. Because otherwise, you're going to go down the road of like over-the-top infomercials, those things that you see where it's like, you know, are you tired of your Tupperware being too disorganized? And then they open the cabinet and it pours out all over and they're like, what happened?
There's gotta be a better way. Yeah, they're like fumbling really easy things. Yeah.
Unless, you know, if that's your intention, right? If your tone is comedic and over the top,
that's true.
Then run with that.
Right, yeah.
But if you're trying to have a different tone of voice, there's other options for you there. There's other ways to show your problem and solution.
So we want to present obstacles in the middle of the script. And that's because it's the meat of your journey, right? It's usually more than one obstacle. You want to show more than one. The tension is built by making the next obstacle a lot harder than the one previous, right? So you see this a lot in feature films, but you can do it in any kind of writing. We need to see the result of some failure before we can see triumph. I think a lot of the times what I see in script writing is like, oh, we just got to the solution and there's really no problem. This is what makes resolution satisfying.
Right.
It's, when you see that conflict.
It's the reward without the effort put into it.
Yeah. So if you're selling a solution, your product or service should be at the heart of that solution. It should be the reason why we as part of the journey come to an understanding that here's a resolution.
Yeah.
It should be because of that solution that we resolve the final obstacle.
For sure.
Yeah. And a quick note here on pacing.
Mm-hmm.
So the resolution, the ending of your story should really be fast in terms of sort of screen time. So like only 10% of your time should be dedicated to the resolution. Everything should really be built on that tension, that middle piece.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense because in theory, you want to show that it's a quick and easy solution to the problem.
True.
And then lead them faster to to buying the product or to going with that service. Like if you hold on to it for too long, you're going to lose them towards the end.
Call to action. Get yourself to this website.
Super clear. Yeah, because ultimately here, it's important to remember that we're trying to take the audience on an emotional journey.
Yeah.
We want them to feel. Feeling is nice. So we suggest outlining either the feelings or the themes that you're going to be using in the beginning, middle, and end of your script the whole way through.
Yeah.
And using that as a guide to come up with the words that you want to go for along the way.
Bonus tip here on length for you math geeks like myself.
Uh-oh.
You ready for this?
I don't know.
You should be ready for this. So it takes about roughly 166 words of spoken English language to get to a minute of video. Some clock it at 180, 200, depending. But if we find 166 gives us a really good padding for transitions, so we get that buffer in there. So if you're going for a 1 minute animated piece, you want to do 166 words. If you're going to do half that, obviously a 30-second piece would be 80 to 90 words. So not a lot of room to be super wordy. I'm sorry, are you with us?
What? Oh, I'm sorry. I fell asleep because it's math and I don't care.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, to your point of this being super wordy, it's one of the biggest challenges that we actually see in a lot of scripts because the copywriters in your organization, they're so knowledgeable about the subject and they're equally so passionate about what they're trying to tell about the subject matter. And so oftentimes we'll get a script that's maybe perhaps a little too overloaded on the word front.
Right.
So it's our job to simplify the content by recognizing what words can actually be translated into visuals. Because if you think about it, it's like what they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
So it makes a big
You can
difference.
always say the same thing in less words.
Yes.
You can always chop it down.
And you can always change things with visuals. So now that we kind of have these sort of tips out of the way, we can get into sort of the organizing side of a script. Yeah. So why don't we talk about the structure a little bit?
We don't talk about structure. No.
Wow.
That was my one Bruno.
Wait, are we about to get into making a new song again? We do this sometimes for those who are coming in for the first time here. We
could like totally rewrite the song
just to be about AV scripts.
Lin-Manuel's song about AV scripts. It's pretty good.
He'd love that. Yeah. No text allowed on the screen.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it is true. We don't talk about structure enough. So
you're right.
Let's get to it. So the structure we suggest again writing these scripts is called the AV script format. This is again for informational, educational, and sales storytelling, story content. So AV stands again for audio and visual, AV script. Mm-hmm. It's like a blueprint for the entire production. At least that's how we treat it. Ours is specifically formatted and created with the visuals and production in mind. So it ties it all together. This is a specialized structure for your story. It's designed specifically to organize your thoughts, lay out the foundation for the production, allow for your creative roles to chime in.
Yes.
And it typically
they should be allowed to do.
As they should be allowed to do. It typically includes dialogue or voiceover, the script, whatever you wrote, the copy, visual direction or instructions for the animation team, any text on screen, some people call that TOS.
Or supers.
A general outline of timing and spacing and pacing, and all of that to be able to synchronize both audio and visuals seamlessly. So it combines all of these details in a nice grid-like fashion, like statistics on a spreadsheet.
That's fair.
You know.
When I think about statistics on a spreadsheet, like I do all the time.
All the time.
I think about baseball. Now, I want you to hear me out for a minute.
Okay.
So think about when you go to a baseball game, you know, when you specifically all the time go to a baseball game.
I go to so many baseball games.
Oh, of course. Well, if you think about it, that game will give you all of the information
I think it's
that you
getting
need.
shorter. I think people are making the game shorter.
They are.
Pretty sure.
Well, see, this is a great example. So if you think about all the information that you're getting how much time there's left to pitch at every single moment, right?
Yep.
You're getting what the stakes are, who's up to bat, what their statistics are, and you're getting all of that information so that at the end of the game, when you see everything laid out, it actually paints a story. It tells you what happened within that. There were obstacles, there were highs and lows. It's a form of storytelling. And that's kind of what an AV script does. It paints a picture of the overall story, outlining all of the key information that needs to be shown in order for the audience to follow along in time. That's the key piece there too, right? You're following along in time, not just on your own pace.
You know, that's not a bad analogy. I didn't really think about AV scripts being very similar to.
I try sometimes.
Yeah.
But yes.
So let's quickly go through this structure again that we use here at OP to give you a sense of how we structure these scripts. So 3 steps here, really kind of easy. Step one, reformat your current words so that there's no additional visual information being transmitted to the reader.
Okay.
This is before you put it into the AV script format. So a lot of the times you're using something, wherever it is you're writing your script, and chances are you're using one of these things. Something like bullets, putting bullets in there. Line breaks, breaking up the lines in different ways. You're putting extra spaces between things. Maybe there are bolded items that you're using to emphasize specific things. Maybe you're using all caps to emphasize some words.
All caps.
All caps.
Yeah.
Maybe you're using italics to kind of say, okay, this thing is important. Maybe you're underlining. All of these things. Maybe you're a highlighter. Are you a person who highlights text?
Oh,
Are you one
I'm
of those
a highlighter
people?
person.
Yeah,
Not only am I a highlighter person, I'm a color coordinated highlighter
color
person.
Coordinated highlighting thing.
Yeah.
So all of these things, the tools that we're using are giving us extra additional formatting so that we can emphasize our language. That's what tools are supposed to do. But really, we want to remove all of that, because we don't want to give any extra additional information to the reader. The goal in reformatting is to remove all the visual cues that modern writing tools give us. So you can start with a clean slate, right? You want to start with letting the words speak for themselves. And it also helps to open up creative possibilities that maybe couldn't be seen before by the person who's going to do some visual writing.
Right. Because it could limit yourself to being like, well, it has to be said in this particular emphasis, so we can't possibly add something else here.
So I've seen bolded things go for like voiceover recordings, which is a little bit different. A VO script is just the words, and that's given to a VO artist. An AV script is, again, to get people on the same page about what's the visual going to be tied to this dialogue.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely important.
Yeah.
So on to step 2.
Yes.
2.
Dos.
We're learning Spanish today. Incredible.
Deux.
What is that?
It's, I think, 2 in French.
Oh. So I don't know any French.
What's
ni in Japanese? There we go. Okay. Yeah. On to step 2. So what you're going to do from there is you're going to paste those words. You're going to copy all the words that you wrote in whatever format you did, and you're going to paste them into your AV script template. There are many different AV script templates out there, but for today only, that's not true, but for this, we have a free AV script on our site right now.
Correct.
For you to be able to look at.
Yes.
It's at the bottom of our site. It's under free resources. You can click there. It'll take you to a resource page, and you can go to the bottom of the page there. You can also go directly to openpixelstudios.com/AV script, all one word, no fancy little line breaks or things like that.
No dots.
Yeah. Available for G Sheets and Excel.
G Sheets and Excel?
Yes.
Wait. You don't have other templates for all the other 800 platforms that I use? It's ridiculous. This is a ripoff. This free resource is a ripoff.
What a ripoff. We're the worst. I can't wait to write an angry comment on one of my other 800 platforms.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, okay, it's still important to know how you're going to paste this
how are we going to
script
use
in.
this resource?
So what you need to do is you need to split your writing into either sentences or sections of sentences. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but it is crucial.
Yeah.
So we'll break down a little bit of what we mean. So when you write a script fully out in the ways that you've been doing, your mind is putting together the thoughts and they're flowing pretty nicely from one section to another.
Mm-hmm.
But when you watch something, your mind can really only see maybe 1 to 3 things at a time.
Yeah.
And so we can't pay attention to all of the visuals all at once. So we need to be able to split our visual ideas into segments. And each visual segment almost always falls within either a single sentence or within a section of a sentence.
Yeah.
And again, this is really for projects that are related to sales, educational, or informative content.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have these longer sentences, maybe run-on sentences is a good example of that, we suggest breaking up those parts at either the commas or the conjunctions, the
ands, ors, buts.
Conjunction, junction. Yeah. What's your function?
Wow.
I don't remember the lyrics, but I remember that part. We're Schoolhouse Rocking it now. Yep. And it's because that's where a voice actor would naturally pause. And when you're writing, it's usually where you start talking about something else.
Yeah.
See what we did there? Pauses. They're nice. You should pause a little bit more sometimes.
Let's do a quick example.
As he doesn't pause.
I'll give you a sentence from a real project that we worked on.
Okay.
And let's maybe come up with how we would break up this sentence.
Sure. What is the sentence?
Here's the sentence. Many folks, like you, work every day to improve outcomes for children and their families. Now, I read it weirdly because I don't want you to know where the pauses are.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, I guess if I were to naturally read that sentence, right, I'd be like, many folks like you work every day to improve outcomes for children and their families. So just from a natural standpoint, it's hard because if I do, I might think to break it up at each comma, right? Many folks like you work every day. Those are 3 potential shots that I could use.
True.
But time-wise, those might feel pretty short.
Super short. Many folks, that's just 2 words.
It's 2 words, yeah. So maybe I'd switch it up to be like, many folks like you work every day and start there and then break up the sentence.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, it leaves a good chunk to improve outcomes for children and their families like that.
Right. It's a good chunk to come up with visual descriptions
you can kind of visually think right now, how do I show improvement for children and their families?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a little bit of the behind the scenes of what we kind of talk about and work through when we're talking about scripts.
All right. So step 3.
Sure.
Once you have your script pasted into the template, you'll notice that our template actually splits those rows into shots. They're actually production shots. Mm-hmm. And now you can start visual writing your visual ideas down. Mm-hmm. When you're writing for visuals, you probably already have some ideas pop up in certain sections during your script writing phase. So when you write those, you can now write those into the shots where they show up on the template. Mm-hmm. Because visual writing is so dependent on the script, the real tip that we can give you here is to pay attention to the length counter on our template. So it counts words, but it also converts it to a length based on that 166 rule. That's important because it gives you a sense of how much time the audience will have to take in your visuals.
I see.
So something with a 1 to 2 second time span is not enough time necessarily to get something across in a visual format.
Right, because sometimes we'll see that through like transitions between shots in motion. But it sounds like you're telling me that I probably should have paid attention to the math a little bit more. So I'm sad now.
In these cases, you could do a few things. You can combine words. So in other words, you're making the shot longer and having fewer shots. Mm-hmm. You can make the visuals really simple. That's a little harder to do, but doable.
Yes.
Or you can make sure that in the edit, you leave room for the visual and push out the next dialogue line. That's a little bit harder. This changes the pacing of our natural language, which can be effective for certain things, but it lengthens the overall video. So that might not be an entirely a good idea based on the algorithms that are, rewarding shorter videos.
That's true. So. That's true. Right. No breaths. No one is allowed to take.
That is something we do in the voiceover. When people record a voiceover, you'll usually get a
oh yeah,
like a little breath.
Sometimes we'll cut that. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if we do it here,
or add silence or things of that nature. Yeah, the power of editing. Mm-hmm. All right, well, so why don't we take that same example that we had before with that script line, and we'll brainstorm some visuals for it.
Okay.
So the sentence to reiterate is, many folks like you work every day to improve outcomes for children and their families.
Okay.
What would you do?
Visually?
Yeah.
So many folks like you work hard or work every day. I think I would cut it there. Mm-hmm. Many folks like you work every day.
Yeah.
At that point, I think I would want to see, okay, what's my persona? Mm-hmm. What am I selling? Or what are we talking about?
Right.
Who's that person?
I feel like
who's the target?
That could come through in a number of ways, right?
Yeah.
As a reminder, in one episode, we talked about like characters don't have to be actual people. Characters can actually be like icons. So if you're saying you want to show a community, it could be icons of a community, or it could be things that represent your community, like housing or parks or playgrounds or things of that nature. Like if you're talking about families. So
we're talking about children and their families. Seemingly we were talking about children. So maybe many folks like you're going to probably have a child. Mm-hmm. You're probably going to be working middle class person. So I kind of want to show that in the situation of the work that we're in. Yeah. So if we're talking about a specific type of work, then we want to see that type of work being done.
Right. I mean, you can already see while we're talking about this too, like how much context is so important. If we don't have the goal of like who the actual audience is, we're like, well, what type of family? Right. Who are we targeting? What's the age range?
Then we're talking about children. So to improve outcomes for children and their families. So the outcome, what are the outcomes that we're talking about?
Right.
Are we talking about
health?
Children's health, education.
Is there one particular theme?
Yeah.
So that was easy, right? No, I mean, ultimately, really, you can kind of tell there's a lot of hard work that actually goes into making visual descriptions because it all has to tie in together cohesively. Yeah. So we do hope, though, that this gives you some idea of how to think about scripts a little bit differently than you might have been for your upcoming projects. Yeah. And really, it's so that way Lisa isn't tearing you apart.
That's another Room reference to The Room.
Come on.
If you haven't seen The Room, go watch The Room.
Not with your children. Yeah.
Don't watch it with children. It's not a kid's movie.
Just putting that disclaimer in there right now.
But it's also not a good movie.
Right.
If you like bad movies, you'll like this.
Yeah. We're fans of bad movies here, so.
Well, we learn from bad movies.
You do.
Learn what not to do. So the AV script format we've provided aligns production animations together, right? Yes. Each row in that thing is a shot inside of the animated piece, which loosely translates into one panel in a storyboard, or you can also think of it as like one slide in a slide deck. This is the foundation for the rest of the production. It's how we develop internal stuff, source files. It's how we refer to them internally in meetings. It's how we refer to compositions inside of our projects.
It's the whole deal.
It's the whole deal.
It's the kit and caboodle.
It's the...
Where does that come from?
It's the hottie Bugatti.
I don't know where kit and caboodle comes from.
No, I don't know either.
I'm going to have to to look this up.
But I think I just came up with one.
Hottie Bugatti?
The hottie Bugatti.
I don't think... Does that... Stupid. Oh, we're silly. Yes. I don't know. Oh, yeah. It's because ultimately we want you to feel empowered to utilize a tool that creates transparency among the people who buy the creative content and the people who make it to get their ideas seen on the page. Yeah. Right. And so what you can do with this is you can either take an AV script and work with it on your own before even coming to us, or bring us a script and we'll update it into that format. Yeah. We usually do that anyway. Yeah. We do feel that regardless of where the creative gets involved, that they should always have the ability to revise a script because they'll be able to provide their expertise on what you might not be able to see while you're writing it, right? It's just getting an extra set of eyes that can look at it a little more objectively too.
Yeah. The other thing too is that going through it this way, prevents, hopefully, future changes because you're kind of thinking through all of these things at once. Now, it could be that in certain parts of the workflow, there are changes to the script, but we'll get to other stages and we'll talk about how those changes affect sort of backwards rather than forwards. You want to always have it so that the changes are never affecting the production in time, in the future, but that affect the past. It's kind of a weird way to think about it, but
I mean, some of the times we can say that like our favorite times working on scripts are when we get the chance to really dive in and collaborate on visual description ideas with the client. Like we can come up with our own ideas based on everything that we've been given, but it's honestly just more fun. It's more enjoyable. It's more authentic to come up with the ideas together because you can really feel the creativity in the room and everyone's able to contribute their ideas.
Exactly.
Even if there's like some boundaries within there, right?
Yeah.
It can be like, oh man, I've got this really cool idea. There's going to be like 800 characters and it's going to be awesome. And then we'll be like, okay, well, we can take a core piece of that and still bring it in, knowing that we're objectively looking at it from time and budget perspective too.
Right. Exactly.
So lots of great ways to work with scripts.
Cool.
But
so hopefully you've learned a bunch here. If you have any questions at all about this or about any of our episodes, again, you can submit your questions anonymously now to openpixelstudios.com/podquestion, all one word, all lowercase.
This is going to be a problem for me because now I'll be able to submit questions.
You could. That's true. You could ask yourself stuff.
Yeah. Cool.
It's very meta.
Excellent. All part of the plan. I can get into the tease a little bit here.
Nice.
So our next episode is a hack that's going to go over 3 things to do before writing your next script for animation.
Yeah.
All right. So lots of good info, but we wanted to bring it all into this one, but it's just a little too much.
Yeah.
But the hack is really for people who don't have brand guidelines yet and are not well established yet, right? They're just getting started. They're figuring it out and they want to make a script and not really sure about how that approach would work. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Yeah.
So a big thank you to EMedia for producing this podcast.
Especially today.
Thank you, Jackson Foote, for opening the doors, literally. Our music was created by Hidden and licensed through premiumbeat.com.
Mm-hmm.
And until next time.
Oh, so happy if you said that. Stay honest.
Stay creative.
Stay open.
Open Pixel Studios. Thank you so much for listening. And
you're our favorite customer.
Wow. More room jokes. Wow.
I honestly should have put more in. I'm sad I didn't.
Audio listeners, stick around for a bad idea.